Are you waiting to feel like it? Waiting for that jolt of inspiration, that wave of energy you call motivation? Let me tell you a brutal truth. Motivation is a lie. It's a fleeting chemical high, a story that weak minds tell themselves to justify inaction. We see the statistics every year. 80% of New Year AS resolutions are dead and buried by February. Why? Because they were built on the flimsy foundation of a temporary feeling. If you are waiting for motivation to build your life, to build your business, to build your mind, you have already lost the war. My name is Cassian. I am not a motivational speaker. I don't deal in hype. I am a mindset architect. For 40 years, I navigated the chaos of the business world, building companies and, in the process, breaking myself. I achieved the success everyone chases, only to find myself empty, anxious, and a slave to every external event. I had to learn, the hard way, that the world doesn't care about your feelings. It only responds to your actions. Today, I'm going to give you the blueprint for building an iron mind. This isn't feel-good content. It is a cold, hard look at the operating system that separates the amateur from the professional in the game of life. We will dismantle the myth of motivation and replace it with its far more powerful, far more reliable counterpart. Discipline. The first brutal truth you must internalize is this: motivation is temporary, but discipline is permanent. Motivation is a spike. It's the sugar rush you get from watching a video, the excitement on the first day at the gym. It is an emotional state, and like all emotions, it is volatile and untrustworthy. Discipline is a system. It is the quiet, deliberate act of showing up when the feeling is gone. It is the engine that runs when the cheering stops. Motivation gets you to the starting line. Discipline is what makes you finish the race, especially when you're alone, in the dark, and the rain is pouring down. It doesn't ask how you feel. It simply tells you what to do next. How many times have you started with a fire in your belly, only to find yourself back at the beginning a month later, waiting for the next spark? This is the cycle of the amateur. Today, we begin the work of breaking that cycle. Let's go deeper into this first truth. I want to tell you about a man I once called my business partner back in the early days of my tech career. He was the classic ideas guy, brilliant, charismatic, and fueled by pure, uncut motivation. When we were pitching for funding or celebrating a win, he was a force of nature, electric. The energy in the room was palpable. Our initial success was built almost entirely on the back of his infectious enthusiasm. That was the spike. But then the real work began. The 18-hour days debugging code, the market turning against us, the tedious, unglamorous grind of building something real. And that's when his motivation vanished. It was a ghost. The fire in his eyes was replaced by a hollow look. He started coming in late. He missed crucial meetings. He was looking for his next fix of excitement, his next motivational high. My discipline, my relentless focus on the process regardless of how I felt, became a quiet accusation to him. Our partnership fractured, not over a single disagreement, but under the slow, crushing weight of his dependency on feeling good to do the work. He was a fair-weather soldier. I learned a lesson that day that cost me millions, but has since earned me much more. Never build anything important with a person who runs on motivation. Think of it like this. Are your goals built on the sand of emotion or the bedrock of a system? A writer who waits for the muse to strike will write a handful of pages a year. A writer who sits in the chair every morning from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m., regardless of inspiration, will write a book. The professional doesn't wait for the feeling, they create the feeling through the act of doing. The discipline itself becomes the motivation. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught that our chief task in life is to separate what is in our control from what is not. Your feelings, your moods, your fleeting sense of motivation, they are fundamentally not in your direct control. They are weather patterns passing through your mind. But your actions, your choices, The systems you build. These are yours to command. To build your life on the foundation of motivation is to build a house on the shoreline, praying against the tide. To build your life on discipline is to build a citadel on high ground. The storm will still come, but you will be unmoved. So I ask you, what is the one great project you abandoned because the feeling left you? And what system, what simple, repeatable action could you have put in its place? This leads us directly to the second brutal truth. Motivation requires external fuel, but discipline is a self-sustaining engine. The modern world is an all-you-can-eat buffet of motivational junk food. You binge-watch videos, listen to podcasts, and scroll through inspiring quotes, chasing that next dopamine hit. You get a temporary surge of energy, a feeling that you can conquer the world. But it's borrowed energy. It's a cheap fuel that burns fast and leaves you with nothing but smoke. The reliance on this external validation keeps you weak. You become a junkie, always needing one more hit from an outside source to get you through the day. Discipline, on the other hand, is an internal engine. It's a power plant you build inside yourself brick by brick through consistent action. Each time you choose to do the hard thing you didn't feel like doing, you add another brick. Each time you show up when it's easier to stay home, you fortify the walls. The act of discipline generates its own momentum. It becomes a virtuous cycle. Action creates results, even small ones, and those results build belief. That belief is 1,000 times more powerful than any borrowed motivation. You become your own source of power. I once mentored a young man working on Wall Street. He was sharp, but his performance was a roller coaster. He'd come in on a Monday morning, wired from a weekend of listening to trading gurus, and make a series of bold, impulsive trades. By Wednesday, after a few losses, his confidence would be shattered, and he'd spend the rest of the week paralyzed by fear. He was a motivation junkie. He needed the external hype to feel like a trader. We threw it all out. We banned the podcasts, the videos, the gurus. We built a system, a brutally simple, non-negotiable set of rules for his trading day, a specific time to start, a checklist to review before any trade, a hard limit on daily losses, a mandatory after-action review, win or lose. His job was no longer to make money. His job was to follow the system, perfectly, every single day. The first few weeks were hell for him. He felt neutered, but slowly something shifted. The discipline of the process began to build a quiet confidence in him that no external hype ever could. He stopped feeling like a trader and started acting like one. He became his own power plant. The Roman philosopher Seneca spoke of the ideal state as autarkia, or self-sufficiency, a mind that is master of itself, dependent on nothing external for its tranquility or purpose. A mind that constantly needs a motivational fix is the opposite of this. It is a beggar's mind. Discipline is the rigorous practice of building that self-sufficiency. It is the path to true mental wealth. Look at the sources of your energy. How much of your time is spent consuming motivation versus executing a disciplined plan? Be honest with yourself. Are you building your own power plant? Or are you just borrowing electricity from someone else's grid? Now we arrive at the crucible, the place where the strong are forged and the weak are broken. The third brutal truth is this: motivation fails under pressure, but discipline thrives in it. Motivation is your friend at the beach party. It's fun, loud, and full of life when the sun is shining and the music is playing. But when the storm rolls in, when crisis hits, motivation is the first one to run for cover. It is a fair-weather friend. When your business is on the brink of failure, when you get a terrifying health diagnosis, when a relationship falls apart, in those moments of extreme pressure, the feeling of motivation will be nowhere to be found. It will be replaced by fear, doubt, and overwhelm. In these moments, only one thing will save you: your discipline. Discipline is forged in the fire of adversity. It is the training you do when you don't need it, so that it will be there for you when you do. It's the muscle memory of the mind. Look at the men and women in the most elite military units, like the Navy SEALs. They aren't trained to feel motivated when running into a firestorm. They are trained to execute a series of disciplined, pre-practice drills until the threat is neutralized. Their actions are divorced from their feelings. Under immense pressure, they don't rise to the occasion. They fall back on the level of their training. That training is discipline, burned into their very nervous system. I remember my own crucible moment, a severe burnout that nearly cost me everything. The company was hemorrhaging money, my health was shot, and the pressure was a physical weight on my chest 24 hours a day. There was zero motivation. Waking up felt like a defeat. I felt nothing but a cold, deep dread. What got me out of bed? Not a feeling. It was a simple, stupid system I had begun to build. A discipline. 1. Get out of bed and put on workout clothes. No negotiation. 2. Walk for 10 minutes, even if it was just pacing a circle in my living room. 3. Sit at my desk and write down the single most important task for the day. 4. Work on that one task for 25 minutes. That was it. That was the entire system. It was pathetic, but it was a lifeline. It was a set of actions that I could execute regardless of the storm raging inside me. That simple discipline was the thread I used to pull myself out of the abyss. It held when every emotion I had was screaming at me to quit. The great Stoic emperor, Marcus Aurelius, wrote his meditations not in a peaceful library but on the battlefield, facing war and plague. He constantly reminded himself of one core principle: the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Motivation sees a crisis and collapses. Discipline sees a crisis, acknowledges the fear, and says, "Good." This is what we trained for. The obstacle is the path. Think back to the last time you were under real, soul-crushing pressure. What was your immediate response? Did you have a system to fall back on? A discipline that guided your actions? Or were you tossed about on the waves of your own fear and panic? Your answer to that question reveals everything. This brings us to the very heart of the philosophy, the dividing line between a life of fleeting pleasure and a life of enduring strength. The fourth brutal truth: motivation seeks comfort, but discipline embraces suffering. Our modern culture is obsessed with comfort, with ease, with the path of least resistance. Motivation is the high priest of this religion. It tells you to do what feels good. It encourages you to wait for the perfect moment, the right mood. It whispers to you that if something is hard, if it causes discomfort, it must be wrong. And so, you choose the easy path. You skip the hard workout. You avoid the difficult conversation. You put off the complex project. This relentless pursuit of comfort doesn't make you happy. It makes you weak. It atrophies your soul. Discipline is the antidote. Discipline is the conscious and deliberate choice of the harder path. It is the practice of voluntary suffering, not for the sake of punishment, but for the sake of growth. It is the cold shower when the warm one is available. It is reading the dense, challenging book instead of scrolling through meaningless feeds. It is doing the final set in the gym when your muscles are screaming for you to stop. Discipline is choosing between what your weaker self wants now and what your higher self wants most. That choice, that voluntary embrace of discomfort, is the forge where strength of character is created. I once coached a senior executive, a brilliant strategist who was terrified of public speaking. He was motivated to avoid it at all costs. He would delegate presentations or feign illness. His comfort-seeking was creating a bottleneck in his career and crippling his team, who needed his leadership. The disciplined path was clear. Embrace the suffering. We started small. He had to record himself giving the presentation to an empty room. It was excruciating for him. Then he presented to me. Then to a small, trusted group. Each step was a deliberate dose of the very thing he feared. It never became comfortable. But through the disciplined repetition, he learned to perform in a state of discomfort. He transformed his relationship with fear. He stopped trying to eliminate it and instead learned to use it as fuel. He chose the hard path, and it made him a true leader, not just an executive. The Stoics called this premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Seneca would deliberately live as a poor man for several days a month, eating stale bread and sleeping on the floor. He did this to inoculate himself against the fear of poverty, to train his mind to endure hardship. He was embracing voluntary suffering to build an unbreakable inner peace. Every time you choose the disciplined path over the comfortable one, you are conducting your own small version of this practice. You are telling your mind that you are in control, not your fleeting desire for comfort. So, I ask you this, and I want you to answer with brutal honesty. What necessary suffering are you currently avoiding? What difficult conversation? What demanding project? What uncomfortable truth are you sacrificing for the sake of comfort? That thing you are avoiding is precisely where your greatest growth is waiting for you. So, we have established the enemy, a reliance on the fleeting emotion of motivation, and we have named our champion, the unwavering practice of discipline. But knowing this is not enough. You need a system, an operating system to install in your mind that automates discipline and removes your unreliable feelings from the equation. This is how you move from being a reactor to your moods to being the architect of your actions. The first and most critical step in this system is an identity shift. You must stop seeing discipline as something you do and start seeing it as who you are. Stop saying, "I'm trying to work out more." Instead, state, "I am the type of person who never misses a workout." Stop saying, "I should try to read more." Instead, state, "I am a reader." This is not a word game. It is a profound reframing of your internal narrative. When you are faced with a choice to go to the gym or stay on the couch, you are no longer debating an action. You are debating your identity. The question becomes, what would a person who never misses a workout do right now? The answer is obvious. Acting in accordance with your chosen identity is far easier than trying to force yourself to do something you see as foreign to your nature. When I began my own transformation after my burnout, this was my starting point. I didn't say, "I'm going to try to be less reactive." I made a firm, declarative statement to myself. I am a calm and logical man who is master of his own mind. Whenever I felt that old, familiar surge of reactive anger or anxiety, I would pause. I would take a breath, and I would ask myself, is this action consistent with the identity of a calm and logical man? More often than not, the answer was no. The identity itself became the filter through which all my decisions had to pass. The second step is environmental design. Let me be clear, your willpower is finite and it is weak. It will fail you. Stop trying to win battles of willpower and start architecting an environment where willpower isn't necessary. Make virtue the path of least resistance and vice the path of most resistance. If you want to work out in the morning, lay out your gym clothes, shoes, and water bottle the night before. The only decision you have to make when you wake up is to put them on. If you want to read more, take the television out of your bedroom and place a book on your pillow. If you want to stop eating junk food, don't buy it. Purge it from your house. You are creating a world where your desired behaviors are the default setting. The Stoics understood this. They didn't believe in needlessly tempting fate. They believed in creating a life where it was simply easier to do the right thing. Take a hard, objective look at your immediate environment, your home, your office, your digital spaces. What do they encourage? What identity do they support? If a stranger were to analyze your environment, what would they conclude are your true priorities? Architect your world to support the man or woman you intend to become, not the one you're trying to leave behind. Once you have defined your identity and designed your environment, you need to build momentum. The third part of the system is habit stacking. The human brain loves to run on autopilot. It builds neural pathways around existing routines. Instead of trying to create a new habit out of thin air, which requires enormous activation energy, you will anchor your new discipline to an existing, established habit. You piggyback on the momentum you already have. The formula is simple. After current habit, I will new discipline. For example, after I pour my morning cup of coffee, I will meditate for 5 minutes. After I brush my teeth at night, I will read 10 pages of a book. After I shut down my work computer, I will write down my 3 most important tasks for tomorrow. The old habit becomes the trigger for the new one. You are not searching for time or motivation, you are simply executing a pre-planned sequence. The 4th step is a crucial mental shift. Track systems, not outcomes. This is where most people fail. They get obsessed with the result, the number on the scale, the money in the bank, the promotion at work. This makes their emotional state a slave to external metrics they don't fully control. The disciplined mind detaches from the outcome and focuses obsessively on executing the process. Your only goal is to follow your system. I had a mentee who wanted to grow his consulting business. He was fixated on his monthly revenue, and his mood would swing violently with every new client won or lost. He was miserable. We changed his focus entirely. His new goal had nothing to do with money. His goal was to make 10 high-quality outreach calls every day, Monday through Friday. That was it. His job was to put a checkmark next to that one activity every day. He focused on the system, the process he could control. And a funny thing happened. By detaching from the outcome and focusing on the discipline of the process, the outcomes took care of themselves. His business grew, but more importantly, his peace of mind was restored. He wasn't riding a roller coaster anymore, he was laying a railroad, one tie at a time. Finally, the 5th and most profound step: embrace resistance. You must understand that it is going to suck. There will be days you do not want to do it. Your mind will produce 1,000 brilliant excuses to take the easy path. Expect this. Welcome it. That feeling of resistance is not a sign to stop. It is the signal that you are doing something worthwhile. It is the friction required for growth. Marcus Aurelius taught that the mind can convert any obstacle into fuel. The resistance is your fuel. When you feel that voice saying, "I don't want to," you should calmly reply, "I know." And that is precisely why we are going to do it now. This is the essence of building an iron mind. You don't ignore the feeling or fight it, you act in spite of it. So, I ask you, are you measuring your results, or are you measuring your adherence to the process? Where in your life are you waiting to feel like it, when you should be embracing the resistance as the very point of the exercise? We have journeyed through the brutal truths. We have dismantled the myth of motivation and laid out the 5 principles for architecting a life of discipline. 1. Shift your identity. 2. Design your environment. 3. Stack your habits. 4. Track the process, not the outcome. And 5. Embrace the resistance. This is the operating system. This is how you automate discipline and build an inner citadel that cannot be breached by your own fleeting moods or the chaos of the outside world. Now, knowledge without action is useless. It's time to put this into practice. This is your challenge. I want you to identify just one area of your life that currently runs on the faulty fuel of motivation. It could be exercise, reading, meditation, prospecting for new clients, or spending quality time with your family. An area where you act only when you feel like it. Your task is to build a discipline-based system around it. Right now, define the identity. Define the non-negotiable action. Use habit stacking to give it a trigger. For example, if your current habit is, "I'll try to get to the gym a few times this week," you will replace it with a system. Your new identity is, "I am a person who trains on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday." Your new rule is, "After I finish my last work email, I immediately change into my gym clothes, which are already laid out on my bed, and drive to the gym." This is not a choice. It is not up for debate. It is simply what happens next. I want you to commit to it publicly. In the comments below, declare the one motivation-based habit you are replacing with a discipline-based system. Write it out. Be specific. Instead of hoping to read more, my system is, after I brush my teeth, I will read 5 pages of a book, no matter what. I read these comments. I want to see who among you is a mere consumer of information and who is an action taker. I will respond to those who are ready to do the work. Remember this: motivation is a spark. It can start a fire, but it will not keep you warm through the long, cold night of adversity. Only discipline, the deliberate act of adding one log to the fire, then another, can do that. Discipline, not motivation, builds the iron mind. Stop waiting for the feeling. Start building the system. If you are ready for more brutal truths and the practical blueprints for forging your own mental strength, subscribe and join the Inner Citadel. Now, close this video and go do the work.